Hello students, welcome back again to the YouTube channel of Next IAS. I am Anil Tiwari and I am back again with another session of daily news analysis. Very happy Ambedkar Jayanti first and foremost. Today we mark the birth anniversary of one of the greatest Indian ever to live in the modern, at least in the modern world. Today we celebrate the great reformer, thinker, writer, you name it, politician, and they try to move India into the future direction, the progressive direction, the direction of social inclusion and economic democracy, political democracy, social democracy for that matter. So, very happy Ambedkar Jayanti. Today we will be taking up 5 articles. The very first article will be the great achievement by none other than DRDO. They have tested a unique weapon that works on lasers and it can shoot down drones. So very interesting weapon and we will be discussing it. The second will be on Biomass Mission by the ESA. So today's session is going to sound like a sci-fi movie because second topic is regarding a mission. A satellite is being sent into the orbit that will literally measure how much carbon our forests have, because forests are very important. The third article will be on Ambedkar's Jayanti. We will be discussing his contributions, his history, a lot of knowledge about him because he has done a lot. So we will discuss that. The fourth article will be on pharmaceutical sector of India, another pride for India, a sector in which we excel and we are called the drug country of let's say the drug lab of the world. So we will discuss that. And at the end, very interesting article will be discussing on the Ghibli art which you must have created, I know, and what is the ethics associated to that art, whether your use of the intellectual property per se was ethical or not, or how UPSC will touch it if at all it touches it. So very interesting discussion today. Let's jump into it. We will jump into the first article. Alright, so the first article, very interesting, the laser gun that DRDO has produced. This gun is very effective and very cost friendly to the drones. So recently you have seen that drones have become very common and people were afraid that these cheap drones can largely destroy big weapons. You have seen in Russia-Ukraine war, news of drones killing soldiers, drones destroying tanks, drones destroying aircrafts, airfields and many other things. You have seen the attack by the rebels in the Arabian Peninsula on the oil factories of the Saudi Arabia. Large factories have been destroyed by small drones. So very cheap drones, they were becoming a headache for all countries. And India has now become one of the countries in 4 or 5 countries where we have a cheap solution for these cheap basically attack mechanism. So what we are technically doing is that we are deploying a strong laser guided by certain instruments that will track down these drones, and then the laser will shoot and basically burn them down. And successfully DRDO has burned down a swarm attack. You understand what swarm attack is? That many drones come in a synchronous manner or in a way that they attack simultaneously. So it has attacked many drones all together and then single drones all together. So it is not restricted to drones only. It can go beyond drones. It can basically destroy unmanned maybe flying objects or maybe missiles it can target. So it is a big news and it is a big weapon for India to have. So this is the backdrop and it will come under GS3 Science and Technology for your UPSC exam. The name of this gun is very important. It is named MK2A Laser Directed Energy Weapon Systems. So they are called DEW, Directed Energy Weapon Systems, and this is a laser directed energy weapon system. So very important that you remember the name of the gun. And obviously it is designed by DRDO, and inside DRDO there are different organizations. So very interesting organization is CHESS, CHESS. This CHESS organization is, the full name of this organization is Center for High Energy Systems and Sciences. It is under DRDO only, but remember that CHESS developed this gun. And this is situated in Hyderabad also, because UPSC might ask, sometimes they ask organization and usually they are wrong, but sometimes it can be correct also. So remember that this gun has been developed by chess. Alright, this is low cost and we are in elite club. So very important that you remember, apart from us, US, China, Russia and India, now only we are the fourth nation to have such gun. What is the working mechanism? Simply, if any object comes under its radar, technically speaking, then it will shoot it down, simply. So electro-optic system is there, basically meaning that we have two kinds of systems, that okay, we look at drones and then we shoot some signals also, and if both of these systems combined tracks down a flying object, then it will basically shoot it down, and it will shoot down with the speed of the light, because laser is being used. So the moment it detects, and it will simply kill. There is no time to escape. This is how it looks. So cool. Further, we see DRDO has been working on this menace of drones, because on the India-Pakistan border, the drones have been used to shoot. Let's say drones have been used to smuggle drugs, guns, weapons, and other things. So we have deployed a gun. That gun is basically based out of laser, and that gun then shoots down drones. That has been very successful. Now the gun that we have developed is very advanced, maybe advanced form of that gun only. Okay, so already we have this gun based on India-Pakistan border, that is called laser equipped anti-drone gun mounted mechanism. Then we have this two-pronged approach by DRDO, two-pronged approach. One approach says that okay, we will neutralize these objects. Second approach says that we will kill it. So now this gun comes under the killing part, and also it has neutralization capabilities, both capabilities, meaning that it can neutralize the antennas also. So if we have antennas on a device, you can basically neutralize. So both, it comes under both. Then we have D4 system. What is D4 system? Basically detection. So D4 system has real-time detection, tracking and neutralization capabilities crucial for protecting critical infrastructure and public events. So this is D4 capability of DRDO to protect many infrastructure and public places. A little bit about the great organization of DRDO. This is coming under Ministry of Defence. It is a research wing of the Ministry of Defence. It tries to basically give India the edge, the cutting technology edge in the defence sector, and it tries to research and find out the latest solutions, and it works under a secretary, and then there are other people that also work. And the major project, that this is very important, all these major popular names that you hear, the Agni missile, the Pinaka, the Prithvi, the Akash air defence system, and the LCA Tejas, all these things which you hear are developed and participated by DRDO at least. So very important organization, very important initiatives which it is running. Recently it has basically demonstrated active cool scramjet combustor ground test, basically scramjet engine. So a scramjet engine is ramjet ka developed version, and they have tested it. This will be very important for a long range hypersonic missile. So imagine a missile that is going beyond the speed of the sound, hypersonic, and it is going beyond it, and it is basically using this ramjet engine, very advanced, very efficient engine. So very good development. Then we have Ugram. Ugram is a gun that is a better gun than what guns we have right now. So this is a developed gun with Duip Armor India Private Limited and basically DRDO. So this gun is a good development. Then we have a successful flight test of a defense system that is called phase 2 ballistic missile defense system. So ballistic missiles are what missile? UPSC has already asked question. Ball के जैसे जो आती हैं, ball कैसे फेंकते हो आप? Once you leave the ball, you do not have any control over it. So ballistic missile is basically a missile that acts like a ball. So you shoot it and then you do not have any control over it. What is the opposite of ballistic missile? Cruise missile. Cruise missile is a missile that is controlled, that is cruising towards a location. Okay, so ballistic missile defense system we have tested. Then we have testing of the India's first long range hypersonic missile by DRDO. So this is about 1500 kilometers and it will go with 3 km per second speed. So such a missile has been tested by DRDO. What is the basics behind laser technology? Most of you must have used the laser in your childhood. How does it work? So it works very simply. So you have a medium. Basically, you have a material. That material has electrons. Okay. So what we know is that if you give electrons, Einstein की theory है, if you give energy to electrons, those electrons get excited, then they come down into the normal phase and they leave a photon, or let's say they leave a energy particle when they lose their stage of excitement. So we use this phenomena and we make it synchronized, meaning that we excite electrons with the same energy, and then all electrons get excited in a sink and then they release energy in a sink. Sink meaning that they have the same they have the same phase, they have the same wavelength, they have the same direction. So this is the phenomena behind laser. So this picture basically explains it, that okay, we are trying to give photon to a material, that material will get excited all together, एक साथ करेंगे सब, और एक साथ फिर वो अपना एनर्जी रिलीज करेंगे. दैट्स वाई लेजर्स आर वेरी पावरफुल, although they do not require a lot of power. So your bulb in your house is not a laser, but it has, if of that power, if you had a laser, you can destroy many things. Why? Because your bulb is not a synchronized light source. It's a non-synchronized. Many different wavelengths are coming out, many different phases, they cancel each other out. They are basically a bheed, a crowd. But if you have a forge, or let's say if you have a military possession going on, 100 सैनिक अगर जा रहे हैं और वो एक साथ कदम ताल करते हुए जा रहे हैं, तो उनमें पावर होती है. तो लेजर वही डिफरेंस है लेजर का. इट्स नॉट अ क्राउड, इट्स अ सिंक्रोनाइज्ड लाइट एमिटिंग सोर्स. सो दिस इज बेसिक्स ऑफ laser technology behind this gun. And laser has a lot of applications. You must have used laser in you have seen lasers in many different things. So you can cut things with laser, you can measure things with laser, you can basically point at something and then observe the distance. You can measure the let's say you can do surgery also. You have LASIK surgery in your eyes that you can do. You can do other skin diseases. You can remove your hair with lasers. So a lot of applications are there. You can basically create a new material by burning through laser. You can do signaling through laser. Fiber optics are there, and then you can push laser light through it, and laser can go a long distance. You have spectroscopy, microscopy, many other scientific instruments are based out of laser. So many applications. Based out of this discussion, try to attempt this question, very easy question, and submit your answer in the comment section. We will jump to the next topic. Alright, so the next article is related to one of the very important mission with regards to climate change and our efforts. So this mission is a very interesting mission, because in this mission we are trying to literally weigh in how much carbon does our forests have. So recently you have seen in Hyderabad deforestation was taking place, and you have seen the direct impact of that deforestation in terms of the cries of the animals that were coming out of that forest. And luckily and rightly so, this has been stopped and inquiry has been set up, and we'll see what happens. But imagine the deforestation that has been taking place since industrial revolution. Imagine how many such forests like Hyderabad have been destroyed. Now imagine the impact of that those forests might have had over this climate change that we are seeing that is happening. So what scientists have thought that okay, climate change is an issue that has been happening, but forests are very important, because forests might act as a mitigating medium. That forest might save directly the carbon. It might also provide us a shelter. It might save us from the doom. So but how to do it? So we do not know how much forest do we have, how it is changing also. We don't have a global perspective on it. We might have a local idea. जैसे हैदराबाद के बारे में मालूम है. If you talk about India, we might know. But do you think the way we are we are having this forest institute in India, a long legacy of all these measurements. We have satellite system in India. We do a lot of things. But do you think at global level we have such things? No, I don't think so. So what ESA is doing, the European Space Agency is doing, It is trying to send a satellite which will measure this biomass, which will measure the carbon in this biomass. It will observe the soil also. It will observe a lot of things and come up with a solution that okay, this much carbon globally we have stored in forest, and this is how deforestation is taking place. So very important, as they say, that if you know the problem, then you can solve the problem. Right now we do not know the problem. We do not know the extent of the problem also. So this is the basically context, and it will come in your GS3 Science and Technology. So it is named ESA's Earth Explorer program. In that we have this biomass mission. So a larger program is called Earth Explorer. Literally means that we are exploring the earth. So global deforestation or forestation or plant or let's say tree data we did not have. So they are trying to observe it. They have had other missions. I'll tell you. They have mission GOCE mission. It was on they call it gravity mission. It was on ocean circulation, earth interior, geodesy and sea level change. Then they had a mission SMOS. This was on soil moisture. Then they had a mission on the ice, the cryosat. They have a mission on SWAM, that is magnetic signals from earth. Then they have a mission on air, EOLUS. Then they have a earth care. This mission is on improved understanding of earth radiative balance and climate impact. So on different aspects of the earth's reality, they have had a different mission, and they call it very literally that mission. So all these missions have been come up so far. Now this mission is 7th mission. Okay, in this picture you can see there are upcoming missions also. For example, we have a flex mission and a forum mission. Okay, so if UPSC ask a question, what is Earth Explorer mission, how many missions are there, what kind of missions already took place, and what kind of mission have taken recently. So this table will help you out, and this picture will help you out. We will share this in your notes. You can download. Okay. Further, what is the objective of this present mission that is going to be launched? The objective is to first and foremost map the forest area of the earth globally. We might have country-wise localized mapping, but we will map throughout the globe. Then also we will measure the change and the disruptions that are being brought out by the industrial activity or otherwise. And we will see how it is related to the CO2 level, the increased CO2 level. Further, we will go and observe the Antarctica ice sheet melting. We will observe that also, and we will observe the soil and other things also. So there are other things in this mission also, but major thing is forest measurement. Who launched it? The agency is European Space Agency, that is called ESA. Then what rocket did it go? It went on Vega C rocket from French territory in the South America. So it went from Kourou spacecraft in French Guiana. Then what is the orbit? It will be in sun synchronous orbit. So आपको एक trick बताता हूँ. Whenever you are observing the earth, you will always want to go in a sun synchronous orbit. Sun synchronous orbit is that its position will not change relative to the sun. So sun is throwing light on the earth, and we want to observe it at that time only. So basically we want to be in sync with that cycle. So we put a satellite in a way that it always in sync with the relative position of the sun. That is called sun synchronous orbit. So it will be on 666 kilometer in sun synchronous orbit. This is for the basics of the satellite for prelims. What else UPSC can ask in the prelims? UPSC can focus on the technology behind this satellite. So as a trick, remember, whenever we are measuring forest or vegetation or biological things on the earth, we will always use from the satellite, we will always use the SAR, that is called synthetic aperture radar. What is synthetic aperture radar? Radar you all know. Radar you must have heard that okay, we have a machine that can basically detect objects at a distance without the eyes. We cannot see them, but you can see them. But then what is synthetic aperture? Radar तो समझ में आता है. Synthetic aperture क्या है? So radar has a limitation. The limitation is the antenna, the basically the receiver. If I can use a little French, the receiver length is very important. The longer the receiver length, the better the resolution. Resolution meaning that okay, you can see things differently. So there are two things, very small things at a very long distance. You will see one thing. You will not see two things. with your naked eyes. But the radar can distinguish them. Okay, there are 2 things, 4 things, 5 things, how they are, what kind of shape they have. They have a conical shape. This is called resolution. So that resolution, that looking at something and figuring out what it is, depends on the length of the antenna. So what we do is, we cannot send a long antenna in the space. We cannot send it. So what we do, we try to emulate it. We try to, fake it. We use smaller antennas and then we make a larger one. So that's why it is called synthetic aperture radar. So that's the basic of this terminology, SAR. Then what is this P-band SAR? There is another term called P-band SAR. So whenever you see that we are observing vegetation, okay, whenever you see we are observing vegetation, we will always use a higher wavelength band. So that is called P-band. Okay, P-band is around 30 to 100 to 30 centimeter wavelength. So there are many bands. Where does this band come from? So you have 5G phone, you have 4G phone, you have 3G phone, 2G phone. So you have 5G, 3G, 2G hota kya hai? These are bands. Bands of what? So the spectrum of the radio, the electromagnetic radiation. The spectrum is there. In that spectrum, we have little bands. Okay, band you tie on your wrist. So that kind of bands are there. We have divided this spectrum into little bands. So we have a P band. In that P band, we use that P band radiation we use for this synthetic aperture radius. Why do we do so? Remember, when the wavelength rises, when the wavelength increases, you can penetrate, you can go longer. See, wavelength, the higher the wavelength, the larger penetration will be there. The smaller the wavelength, higher the energy, less penetration will be there. Blue light and red light, you can see. So red light is used as a signal light. Why? Because it can travel longer. So red light has higher wavelength, blue light has lesser wavelength. So higher wavelength we use. In here we are using P band SAR. It is clear now, okay, why we are using synthetic aperture and P band. Fine. So this will be sent up and it will observe the forest. So having said that, again, why I have already discussed. So deforestation is basically causing the disruption. Why it is causing the disruption? You have to observe the carbon cycle. Carbon cycle is very simple, that all living things and many non-living things also, but majorly all living things are made out of carbon. Okay, and there is a cycling that is going on from the living things to non-living and then again back to living things. So we basically, animals and plants, we take up this carbon, we digest it, use it for ourselves, then again send back to the soil, and then again it comes back to, let's say, sent to the environment, and then again through a cycle it will come back to us. So there is a constant thing that is going on in the carbon cycle. But when you do a lot of deforestation, what will happen? Imbalances will come. How the imbalances will come? That okay, deforestation happens, the absorption will not be there. The carbon will not be absorbed. So environment will have more carbon in the form of CO2. What is CO2? CO2 is a greenhouse gas. Greenhouse gas क्या होती है? Gases which absorb light and then at later time they can emit this light. So they have this capacity to absorb energy. So greenhouse gases will increase, temperature will increase and everything will be disrupted. So this breakdowns should not take place, and for that we are basically trying to study the forests, because forests are the lungs of the earth and they are trying to absorb this CO2 and try to store the carbon and keep the climate change effects at bay. So this is what we are trying to do, and we will observe the forest, how they are changing, and then we will try to have some solutions. So based on this discussion, try to attempt this question and submit your answer in the comment section below. We will jump to the next topic. Alright, so the third article in our discussion today is on the birth anniversary of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and the constitution former who framed the constitution and who gave the future guide and future line for Indians to follow. And today we are being governed by that constitution, and lucky enough that we have moved from a lot to a good place. So this is the background for this article, that PM and many other dignitaries, Vice President, Prime Minister have paid tribute in the parliamentary lawn on the birth anniversary of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. It will come under GS1, the freedom struggle, important contributors. And we will go through the life of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and many important things are there for our knowledge and for the exam purposes, both. So early life, the birth took place on April 14, 1891 in Maho, present day Madhya Pradesh, India. He belonged to a Mahar caste that was considered at that time untouchables, and his father was a British Indian Army soldier, Ramji Maloji Sakpal. He joined the for the first one to join the Elphinstone High School in 1897, first Dalit to do so, and then he went on to complete his matriculation and then BA and in economics and political science from the University of Bombay at that time, 1907. In 1913 and 1916 he went to Columbia University in New York, and he completed his MA and PhD in economics. So he was getting trained in economics initially, and then he went to Gray's in London School of Economics, and he basically studied law and economics both, and he completed his DSc in economics and became a qualified barrister. So this great achievement it started from 1897 and it completed in 1923. In this time period, he became one of the most learned person in India, because he had DSc under his belt. He was a barrister, he was economics master, he was writing papers and everything. So he comes back to India, and then he started contributing to uplift the larger portion of the population that was marginalized historically, socially, politically, economically, whatever way you can say. So he started working for them. So the major contributions, we will go by the size of the contribution. So the biggest contribution that he has made is that he gave us a constitution. So he was a chairman of the drafting committee 1947, and he was given the responsibility to basically frame out the constitution. His focus was on liberty, justice and equality. Further, we see that he championed the Article 17, the banning and abolition of untouchability, the absolute banning of untouchability in any form, and then fundamental rights, protecting the civil liberties, Article 21, you name any article, the beautiful Part 3 of our constitution. Then he ensured that in all aspects of life, specifically and especially the political representation or the public sector employment has to be given due representation to the different parts of the society that were not represented at that time or in future also. And then he inserted certain directive principles for the state to follow in order to uplift the socially marginalized communities. Then further, he was a champion of Dalit rights and social reformer. So he basically founded Bahishkat Hitkarni Sabha in 1924 that was aimed at education and upliftment of socio-economic upliftment of the Dalits. Further, he was involved in certain satyagrahas. Mahat Satyagraha is one of them. This is the access to the tank, the water tank, which was not allowed at that time, and then burning of the Manusmriti, that he defied the long historically established traditional Brahmanism rules from the Manusmriti. Then temple entry movement. If you read the today's newspaper, at the bottom of the Hindu, you will see an article where Kerala, all sections of the society are allowed now entry into the central sectorum of the one of the temple. So see, this temple entry movement was happening at that time, and that is now culminating into basically moving out all these practices from the society. So in Kalaram temple in Nasik, he did the temple entry movement. He was the first law minister of the country, but he resigned because of the disagreements over the Hindu Marriage Act. On Hindu Code Bill, he was trying to basically formalize and ensure equality for women in the matter of marriage, divorce and inheritance. These were the long-standing issues at that time, that women were not considered equal and they were not given equal right to property and everything. So he was trying to reform them, but he resigned from the law ministry. Further, he established the Scheduled Caste Federation in 1942. This is not chronologically, I am not speaking chronologically, I am speaking in terms of the impact of his efforts. So in 1942, he founded the Scheduled Caste Federation. It was a political party and it was preceded by the Independent Labour Party, which he formed in 1936. So he was trying to be politically active also. Although politically he was not that successful, but he tried to form a lot of organization and a lot of impact we see today in terms of many great political parties supporting his ideas. In 1956, he embraced Buddhism, the new form of Buddhism which he propounded. He called it Navayana. He adopted it. That is called Navayana Buddhism, which reinterpreted Buddhism through the lens of the social justice. He founded People's Education Society in 1945 when it comes to educational contributions. He established certain colleges like Siddharth College, Milind College, which were talking about modern education, scientific education, secular education. As a labor member, 1942 to 46, he introduced 48 work hour week. He introduced equal work for equal pay, which was incorporated in our constitution also. Paid leave, minimum wage, equal payment, overtime benefits, allow women to work underground in the mining sector. So all these modern progressive ideas were introduced by none other than Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar. Then he initiated water and power policy, in which he laid ground he laid grounds for ESI and other maternity benefits. He conceptualized very great and very important contribution by Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar was the establishment of Reserve Bank of India. So in 1934, the RBI was established because his recommendation to the Hilton Young Commission. So very important that, okay, today we have RBI, all due to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Then we have this Finance Commission, which was set up for the first time under his guidance only, the first Finance Commission. He opposed income tax on the low income groups. If your income is not much, he opposed income tax should not be put on you. So all things about social justice. This is very important. His key papers that he wrote, all these key papers are seminal, very big in historical terms, because the scientific acumen that he had, that basically resulted into these path-breaking papers. The problem of the rupee, the provincial finance of the British India, and the administration and finances of the East India Company. All these things led to the culmination of the banking reforms in India, establishment of RBI, and the look towards the Indian economy had changed because of his papers. Then major works toward, let's say, books and other things we will see. So the book Annihilation of Caste was there in 1936. This was a staunch critique of the caste system in India. It came out of a speech that was cancelled, but later on it became one of the major books, major contribution by him. Then we have this problem of rupee that looked at the monetary instability in India and tries to basically reform the monetary system in India. The Buddha and his Dhamma, this was his interpretation of the Buddhist texts and Buddhist stories, his retelling to the Navayana faith. Then who were the Shudras? So he tries to basically trace back the origin of the caste Shudra, and he claimed that, okay, they were originally Kshatriyas, which were outcasted by the other parts because of social political issue at that time. Then again, linking document, the untouchables, who were they and why they became untouchables also came, and there also he tried to associate this Hinduism versus Buddhism and untouchability coming out of that. Then we have Pakistan and partition, in which he although supported the Pakistan idea, but he was very critical of Congress and Muslim League. He put responsibility on these two parties for the division of the great India. And then thoughts on linguistic states. He said that, okay, linguistic states should be created and the centralizing tendency should be avoided, and we should have decentralization in our system. So at this point, his impact on India's morality, the constitutional morality, is immense. All these great judgments that you see by our Supreme Court are driven out of his ideology, his thoughts, and he was this architect who ransacked, he himself said that I ransacked all the constitution around the world and picked things that are best for our country, be it DPSP, fundamental duties, fundamental rights, or maybe the federalism or parliamentary system in a federalism, and then vice president in a parliamentary system. All these unique maneuvers and unique combination recipe of a constitution that survived in all these decolonized countries. If you look at all the countries that were decolonized at that time, at the time when India decolonized, none of the constitutions survived. None, not even single one, except India's constitution. Major democracy I am talking about. And our democracy is also surviving, no matter how. He was very critical of Indian democracy, but it is surviving right now. and I will recommend everyone to read through his works and especially read through his papers, his books, and what are the arguments that he put out, and what are the thoughts he had on different aspects of our society. It will be a great learning for you, and it will refresh your ideas and thoughts about Indian society and Indian law. So that's it, and try and attempt this question. Submit your answer in the comment section below, and we will jump to the next article. The next article relates to the pharmaceutical industry. So recently we have seen a PIB article which was on the pharmaceutical and medical devices sector of India. It is a very good sector for India. It generates a lot of revenue. Here they mentioning that around $26 billion exports are done by pharmaceutical industry. In total, it is around $50 billion. So it is a major contributor to Indian economy, and there is a national policy on research and development also, because we lack research and development in pharmaceutical industry, because we are producing only generic drugs. We are not producing the high cutting edge drugs. So we will look at what are the challenges, and then we will see certain initiatives very quickly. So Make in India and role in pharmaceutical industry, that is the backdrop of this article. GS3 Indian economy, it will come. So Department of Pharmaceuticals under the Ministry of Chemical and Fertilizer, basically it is responsible organization for basically determining the pricing and the availability of drugs, because it is very important that drugs should be available in right quantity and at the right prices. And also drugs does not become a cartel, or let's say just like USA, it does not comes into a few hands and then they can jack up the prices. So this is one of the biggest responsibility on this organization. And if you see Indian pharmacy, India being the pharmacy of the world, if you see that we are the third largest by volume and 11th largest by term of value. Very important. This is an update to this data, that we are the third largest by volume and 11th largest in terms of value. So very important with regards to prelims. The annual turnover is around 4 lakh crore. This is not so important to remember, but remember the growth is on an average 10% growth is there. And India is globally the largest supplier of generic drugs, according to some sources, 20% of global supply. Very important. India is also one of the biggest supplier of low cost vaccines around the world. So we are the pharmacy of the world. And we are, for example, contributing to the largest sum to the UNICEF's largest vaccine supplier, around 55 to 60% of the total volume, and around 99, 50 to 45% of the WHO's demand of DTP, BCG and measles vaccines. So remember these examples when it comes to questions on pharmaceutical industry. Further, if you see the states, then Karnataka, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Uttar Pradesh, Delhi are the top states that are producing these drugs. So this fact we have already heard. So why we are in advantageous situation? So remember these 4 things: 1, 2, 3 and 4. So 4 ideas is that we are cost efficient, then we are economic drivers, then we have policy support and increasing investment. So all these things are combined together and the industry is very productive. So but there are challenges. For example, the first challenge is the challenges of API and KSMs. So basically in drugs there are certain key elements, basically substances that are required to produce drugs. I will give you an example. So for example, we have paracetamol, ibuprofen, and then we have penicillin G and erythromycin. All these key elements are required to produce other combinations. So we are dependent. How much we are dependent on this? 70% of its API requirements we are dependent on China. So this will be a biggest bottleneck of this industry. Further, we have lack of harmonization, which means CDSCO, the central body that basically controls or regulates the drug industry, and the state regulatory bodies. Both of them clash, and because of this we don't get the drug approvals very quickly. Then we have low R&D investments. For example, Pfizer invests around 14%, Roche invests around 21%. We only invest around 0.5 to 1.5%. Why we do that? Because we are dependent on generic drugs. We do reverse engineering, or we copy the drugs in the global market, and we only have around 1.5% of global pharma patents. Most Indian firms are dependent on reverse engineering and generic drugs. Further, we have fragmented market. The market is very fragmented, and we have around 10,000 pharmaceutical manufacturing units, but 90% of them are MSMEs. So we do not have big companies. what will happen if we do not have big companies? These companies cannot produce quality things. Quality in terms of what? So that they can be accepted globally at all levels. So export is very restricted to certain markets. So this is very a major challenge, because we do not get the good manufacturing practices approval certification from US FDA or EMA. So we have that problem. Then we have infrastructure and logistical gaps. For example, Gujarat, Maharashtra and Andhra Pradesh have a world-class pharma parks, but not the other states. So these are the challenges. Then we have pricing pressure and policy uncertainty. So state is controlling the prices of the drugs. So that is non-economic decision that takes place, and that's why these companies basically struggle with the profit. And then skilled workforce is very short. So all these challenges are there. And then we have global competition and entry of different countries, and trade barriers are there. Now tariff war is going on, and you have seen in news Indian pharma sector is going to get impacted by it. For example, this IP barriers, IP laws will come. Now tariff war is there. Now all these challenges are there, but we have another sector that is very booming, that is called medical devices sector. Let us discuss that first, then we will look at the solution that government is trying to do. So medical device sector is one of the fastest growing sector in the global medical device industry. India is one of the fastest growing, and we are the fourth largest medical device market after Asia, Japan, China and South Korea. Further, we are among the top 20 medical device markets in the world. Very important for your prelims, all these things. Then we started exporting all these things to the world. Further, if you see the FDI in this industry, you will see that we are one of the favorite destination for investors from outside the country to invest in, and we have this pharmaceutical sector among the top 10 sectors where investment comes to the tune of 3.78% total FDI comes into pharma industry. And if you see from 2000 to 2024, we got around 1 lakh crore investment in the pharmaceutical industry and around 27,000 in Meditech. Further, if you see, we are allowing 100% direct route FDI. If you understand what do I mean, FDI is foreign direct investment. Direct route matlab no approval is required and 100% is allowed. So we have all these things going on, and you can see what is the export and import criteria on this. Further, if we go, then what is the initiative that we are taking to basically issue these challenges? You see that we have PLI scheme. This PLI scheme is what it is. It is basically production linked incentive, meaning that if you produce more, we will give you more benefits. So around 50,000 crore have been provided. It covers from financial year 2022 to financial year 2027-28. 55 selected applicants for 6 years. Then we have objectives. Objectives is simply imports dependency has to be reduced. We have to encourage innovation and so on and so forth. Further, we have these 3 categories in which we will be incentivizing these manufacturers. So first and foremost, we have these complex generic patented drugs, which are very important. Let's say for they are not given so much attention, like orphan drugs, gene therapy, complex excipients, basically the things which are produced by very few and required by very few. So these things are category first. In category 2, we have all these APIs and KSMs, drug intermediaries, all these key elements that are required. In third category, we have other things like repurposed drugs, autoimmune, anti-cancer drug, antibiotic drugs, all these things are coming under category 3. And then we see the benefits out of this scheme is that if we have established this one penicillin Celine G in Kakinada in AP, and we have seen that 2700 crore worth of export or let's say import substitution has taken place. Similarly, we have clavulanic acid in Himachal Pradesh, and that reduced 450 crore in the export substitution. So this is very important, and we are generating a lot of employment and other things. Okay, so further, if you see that medical devices also, this is functioning really nicely, and we will see that we are promoting the World Drug Park, another initiative. In this, we will be creating a big park which will produce a economy of scale, and by that we can reduce the cost on the production of drug, and we can make our drugs more cheap and more affordable to the people. For example, we have approved state of Gujarat, Himachal Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, and assistance up to 1000 crore per park has been given. Alright, then we have Pradhan Mantri Bharatiya Janaushadhi Pariyojana, very important, PM, BJP. This Pariyojana is important because it is promoting the generic drugs all over the country. So basically, generic drugs struggled with image because they were cheap and people thought they are of not good quality. So government started opening up these stores. These stores will ensure that supply is there, and if supply is there, then people will buy and it will be cheap. So that all these are objectives. So basically it is uses बढ़ाना है, myth bust करना है, and then supply इंश्योर करना है. की माइलस्टोन यही है कि 15,000 जनौषधि केंद्र ओपन हो गए हैं. ये सेंट्रल सेक्टर स्कीम है एंड दैट इज कॉल्ड SPI. दिस इज स्ट्रेंथनिंग द फार्मास्यूटिकल इंडस्ट्री स्कीम, सेंट्रल सेक्टर स्कीम जो सपोर्ट करेगी फार्मास्यूटिकल इंडस्ट्री को. सो दिस इज इट about pharmaceutical industry. A lot of facts, a lot of figures, because UPSC might ask question out of this industry. Okay, because it has been in news since long. So try and attempt this question. We will jump to the next article. Okay, so the next article is relating to GS4 paper and very important, very popular topic these days, the Ghibli art, or let's say Ghibli studio style art depiction, or let's say adoption by people to create their own images or images of their family. So this you might have done, many people have done. So but there is a ethical issue that many of were not aware, and many were more sensitive enough to recognize and follow it. In general public, when they were doing it, it was not a major issue, but certain examples which this article is using. So this whole discussion is based out of this article. This article uses certain examples and showcases that okay, one type of art is used because that art has aesthetics, peaceful aesthetics and celebratory aesthetics, and that element of art has been used to basically normalize and soften very terrible things. For example, this article uses the example of Israeli Defense Forces using Ghibli arts to showcase soldiers going on a war, but the artist behind this art was completely against war. He was completely against any kind of violence. So there is a question, there is an ethical question whether certain entities, certain activities can be done or not. So that's the ethical dilemma. As you study GS4, there is always this gray line. You never know what is right and wrong. So you need to come out with better arguments to justify one point or the other. So we will look at it. We will see certain examples. We will see. So there is this great example which this article uses. There is somebody in Pakistan who created a movie. I think The Glass Worker. That movie is completely based out of, or let's say inspired, at least I can say, inspired from Ghibli arts. But that movie is completely based in the same theme. The theme is anti-war, being pacifist, being peaceful, being supporting non-violent means. So that was commended, or let's say that was appreciated by the studio itself. So it's not that the studio is completely against creating, or let's say copying or imitating their arts, but they are very much concerned that for what reasons we toiled for is not being represented there. Any political party using Ghibli arts to basically propagate their own political agenda or political movement or political events, or let's say some defense forces or armies or some war machines, they are using this Ghibli arts for their own purposes. It's not right. In a way, it's not right according to this article. But how much legal protection are there? We will see. We will see that. So the backdrop is simply this. It will come in your GS4 AI ethics, or let's say ethics in art, and there have been previous year questions. Read this question number B. Specifically read this question, that ethics encompasses several key dimensions that are crucial in guiding individuals and organizations towards morally responsible behavior. Explain the key dimensions of ethics that influence human actions. Discuss how these dimensions shape ethical decision making in the professional context. So this was in a particular context this question came, but the question's theme was that ethics is the determinant of your morally responsible behaviors. And there are different aspects or dimensions of ethics that you need to show in the exam that basically guide and drive your behavior in a professional context or in a personal capacity. So this was the question. We will discuss this event where you are compelled by your peers to create a Ghibli art, and then whether your actions are morally right or not, at least they are morally responsible or not. So the first core dilemma that you can think of is you know what is dilemma? Dilemma is basically two equally right positions which you can see and you have to choose one of them. That's called ethical dilemma. That's called dilemma. And ethical dilemma basically an ethical position where you have two ethically good or two ethically bad situations that in front of you, and you have to choose one of them, and you need to make an argument about them. So that is called dilemma, ethical dilemma. So we have a dilemma called misappropriation of the artistic intent. What is the artistic intent? The intent was to be peaceful. So Miyazaki, the artist behind all these arts, created so many movies: Princess Mononoke, Howl's Moving Castle, or let's say The Wind Rises. All these movies were based out of anti-militarism, environmentalism, compassion for life in all forms. These were the ideas behind it. Now somebody is maybe killing an animal, and then they create a Ghibli art out of it. Would you say that, okay, this is a morally responsible decision? No, it's not. So that was the whole debate. But the Israel Defense Forces creating all these violent, images into Ghibli form, that was not, in the line, or let's say in the spirit of the artistic intent of Miyazaki. So that was the ethical concern, that misrepresenting an artist's intent or ideological legacy to support your narrative might not be completely ethical or morally responsible. Then we have misuse of cultural and emotional authority. What is cultural and emotional authority? This is basically the power of the art. The power of the art meaning that, okay, art moves people and it has elements that basically categorize or characterize that art which are moving people. And you pick those parts that are called cultural and emotional authority, and then you use for your own benefits. That is being misused here. We will see the example that Miyazaki had strong emotional resonance, nostalgia, safety, innocence as a cultural and emotional authority, and he basically tries to and the military institution and the state bodies, when they are using all these things for their own propaganda, that is misuse, and they are basically trying to exploit this emotional capital to soften, normalize, obscure the violent and oppressive basically nature of their actions. Imagine a protest going on. Okay, imagine a protest going on for maybe a very heinous crime against women in a city, and then you create a Ghibli art out of that protest, the violent protest, suppression of that protest by the state. How can that be morally right? So that's the article. This article is basically arguing about, the article in the Hindu. Then case in example is this again, IDF animal style character depicted as soldiers, and then original anti-war sentiment is being differentiated. Then we have ethical concern, that okay, manipulation is taking place. Third, we have consent and moral rights. So an artist is required to ask for consent. Why? Because artist has put in a lot of efforts to create this art, but you are using AI and everything to basically create this art for your own benefit. That consent is being hurt. So basically in many countries this consent is there. For example, Japan. In Japan you have to take formal consent from an artist to basically create or use their art form, but in US it is not present. So moral consent is not required if you are doing a constructive or transformative work. So you are protected. Fair use policy, they call it fair use policy. In US this is not, but in US only all these AI tools and technologies are present. So this becomes an issue, that okay, a country which is not protecting all these rights, having all these technology, will destroy, misuse them. So that is the issue. Legal limitation is there. Until and unless you create a fixed object out of an idea, in US idea is not protected. So idea is there for style of painting, that will not be protected. Unless you create a painting, that painting will be protected. The idea of that painting will not be. So ethical concern is there, that respect for creator is being tarnished. Then we have exploitation by the AI developers in the tech industry. So there is one side, there is a profit. All these AI tool technologies, what they are saying that we are trying to train our model, and for that we need to scrape the internet, or let's say pick up all these artistic styles. And then also it is saying that we are doing the transformative work, and then again it is saying that we have the legal backing also. All these arguments they are producing, but they are generating all these arts and art forms and creating profits for them. That's unethical. That okay, on one hand you are using the artist hard work free, and then you are creating gain out of it. So that is unethical. This is seen as unethical and exploitative. So the other thing is that we have impact on real artists and cultural authenticity, meaning that the artists are basically left without any power, because if an artist's style that he has developed in a long time has been copied and can be produced very easily, the artist is left with no choice, nothing. So that is another thing. Artists have come up certain solution. They have this gloss, or let's say they have this basically prevention that these AI tools cannot scrape their art, but these will not work in a longer term. So artists are basically saying that we will use this glaze and many other things, but there is a risk, basically there is a risk of normalization of the AI generated art. So that is another thing. Then weaponization of aesthetics for political narratives. So there are many examples which they have used. 9/11, then this Babri Masjid demolition, all these violent activities they have, and then they are turning them into Ghibli arts and then normalizing them. This article talks about that this is not a good example of basically normalizing or weaponizing the aesthetics of the art to for political narratives. So there are ethical concern that sanitization of violence, distortion of history, and violation of dignity of certain communities is happening. Then we have cultural appropriation, global sensitiveness, basically meaning that this unique Japanese cultural legacy is there with this art, but every art and everywhere it is being adopted. Imagine an African art and people in the Europe trying to utilize it for their own purposes. That will become a major issue, but Japan is not there. So people are not basically recognizing that you are basically decontextualizing any aesthetic or any art. So that is also again an anti-ethical, or let's say ethical concerns are there. So there are key ethical questions that are raising that are raised in this event, that should companies be allowed to mimic all these arts and generate profit out of it without compensation or consent, or whether they can style this thing so closely or let's say a style can be so closely associated with aesthetics that you cannot basically mimic that style. For example, Ghibli, this is against Ghibli, that okay, you can claim that idea, you cannot. So that is the second question. Then who will be the responsible for this AI generated art? Then further it says that how can we protect all these things, economic thing and then other things. So all these questions are there. I will ask you to attempt this PYQ and try and solve this question and submit your answers, and we will look for you again in the next DNA session. We will meet again. Thank you and goodbye.